Ranganathan, you're not the lawyer on the panel, but as a layperson, do you have a problem with this act? If so, why?
Good evening, Rahul, and good evening to my fellow panelists. It's a real exalted panel of, I'm surrounded by 6 lawyers and I feel guilty already. So please pardon if I disagree. I disagree with my first 2 esteemed panelists already. I don't believe this is a religious social issue. This is entirely a legal issue. And I disagree with the earlier speaker about the definition of secularism. What he meant was pluralism, not secularism. But Rahul, to come back to this issue, and I have 3 or 4 points to make, and sadly, I have to say this, that history written by the victors is peddled by the vanquished, and we remain vanquished. To me, one of the most barbaric legislations ever enacted in India is the 1991 Places of Worship Act. But in 2019, the virtue signaling Supreme Court in its Ayodhya judgment willfully ratified this act that obligates maintaining all religious places as they were on August 15, 1947. Historical injustice of Kashi can now never be addressed unless Parliament overrides it. Rahul, a legal recourse to correct historical injustices cannot be denied in a democracy. And please, this is not a Hindu or a religious issue at all. I, as a Darwinian atheist, demand the abrogation of the Places of Worship Act. Rahul, if a mosque had been demolished by a Hindu king and a temple built on it, I, a kafir and an atheist for whom Islam sanctions death penalty, would have fought for the rights of Muslims to legally get back their mosque. I would have stood with them. Because to me, the mark of civilization is this unquenchable thirst to demand justice for your ancestors. बाकी है क्या जिंदगी में? To correct a historical wrong, for that exemplifies a continuity, an idea, a memory that can never be erased, that is worth fighting for and preserving. It makes justice greater than the sum of its parts, and that is why civilizations are not fleeting like empires. That is why, Rahul, history is a medicine, catharsis a cure. If an image could speak 1,000,000 words, it would be that of the Nandi, waiting patiently for 400 years for his Lord to emerge and for this historical injustice to be corrected. From Somnath to Kashi Vishwanath, these injustices have deliberately been made visible, as though to lionize the debasement, to celebrate the humiliation, if you will. And the irony is that the same people who have taught us this, drilled this self-loathing in us, these same people want others to fight historical injustices around the world. They condemn barbarians of the West hither to worship like the Confederacy generals, Rhodes, Churchill, Pizarro, Murray, Colston, Leopold. They celebrate their roads and buildings being renamed, their statues being brought down. But here in India, this same set eulogizes barbarians like Aurangzeb. Finally, Rahul, just 30 seconds. To show you the extent of the conceit, let me, if I may, read out to you a passage from the 2019 Ayodhya judgment where my lords exult and willfully ratify this act. Quote, "The Places of Worship Act imposes a bar on the institution of fresh suits or legal proceedings. The only exception, other than Babri Masjid Ram Janambhoomi case, is in the case of suits, appeals or proceedings pending at the commencement of the law on the ground that conversion of a place of worship had taken place after 15th August 1947. The Places of Worship Act is thus a legislative intervention which preserves non-retrogression as an essential feature of our secular values. The Places of Worship Act is intrinsically related to the obligations of a secular state. It reflects the commitment of India to the equality of all religions. Above all, this act is an affirmation of the solemn duty which was cast upon the state to feature and preserve the protect equality of all faiths as an essential constitutional value. The law speaks to our history and to the future of the nation," unquote. Really, I'm sorry, but this law airbrushes our history and it destroys our future. I wanted to make the point, substantiate the point that you've made. Mr. Lekhi, can I please?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I'll
thank you.
respond after Mr. Ranganathan says.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Lekhi is an absolute legend. But here, if I may, he's a legal eagle and I'm a legal raven. And if I may, he is looking more like a school teacher, a very good school teacher than an excellent lawyer. And I'll explain to you why. You see, for Mr. Lekhi to say what he said, it's all very well in an ideal society where people respect each other and all religions think that all religions are equal and all. He has to understand what the fundamentals of one particular religion is. They are uncompromising. Please understand the ayats 40-62. There is only one God. You cannot worship any other deity. You are forbidden this, that, whatever. In fact, I would say, what else is this but extreme provocation? That a faith, people belonging to a faith are continuing to worship for decades at a place that clearly has been built upon demolishing a Hindu temple. If tomorrow there was a temple built upon a demolished mosque and I was chanting Hanuman Chalisa, would I not feel that is a provocation for Muslims? That I am provocating Muslims? Of course I would. So this is a purely 200% legal matter. It cannot be settled between communities because we know the fundamentals of one particular community. And here, very briefly, I must agree with Mr. Hegde. The government is pusillanimous. They are scared. Otherwise, they would have abrogated this law. It doesn't need to go to the Supreme Court or any other court. Mr. Kohli will, of course, may disagree with me, the good Mr. Kohli. But I have to say this. The Congress had much more gumption. They overturned the Supreme Court not just once in Shah Bano, but twice. In 1959, Control of Temples Act, the Congress overturned it. The BJP doesn't even have the guts to overturn what the Congress overturned. So this is a matter that the Parliament should immediately abrogate the Place of Worship Act if they disagree with it.
Good evening, Navika, and good evening to all my esteemed panelists. I have been waiting very patiently for half an hour. मैंने अपने मुंह से चू नहीं निकाला है, so I humbly request my fellow panelists to not interject me. Thank you very much. I just need a couple of minutes because it's a very important issue and this is a wonderful debate. Thank you so much. Navika, the 91 Places of Worship Act, the exclusive control of Hindu temples by the government, and now this Gyanvapi Kashi Vishwanath issue confirms that Hindus are second-class citizens in this country. There is no doubt about it. Let us be very open. Let us be very frank. This is the fact. अगर आपको justice के लिए Supreme Court disallow करे कि historical injustice को हम हटाना चाहते हैं, हम legal route ढूंढ रहे हैं, हम किसी भी मस्जिद को destroy नहीं करना चाहते, हम आपके पास आना चाहते हैं, अगर वो दरवाजा भी बंद कर दें इस country में, तो इस country में Hindus second class citizens हैं. Let us accept it. Number two, I have to say this कि अभी तक आई एम नॉट बीइंग पैट्रोनाइजिंग बट नाविका अभी तक आधे घंटे की डिबेट है. आई एम अफ्रेड इट्स बीन वेरी इमोशनल एंड इफ देयर इज वन थिंग दैट हैज नो प्लेस इन अ कोर्ट ऑफ लॉ इट इज इमोशन. वो एक मंदिर की तरह है जहां आप चप्पल इमोशंस की तरह अपने चप्पल उतार के मंदिर में घुसते हैं ना, वैसे ही कोर्ट ऑफ लॉ में दो चीजें डिसाइड करती हैं कौन जीतेगा कौन हारेगा, साइंस और एविडेंस. और इस उस पे वजूद पे मैं कहना चाहता हूं कि आई एम अफ्रेड द हिंदूज एंड द वेरी गुड मिस्टर जैन हैज वॉक्ड राइट इनटू द ट्रैप सेट बाय देम बाय हाईलाइटिंग दिस इशू ऑफ शिवलिंग. अरे भाई शिवलिंग है कि नहीं है, इट इज इमटेरियल. द फैक्ट ऑफ द मैटर इज दैट दिस प्लेस ऑफ वर्शिप शुड बी हैंडेड ओवर टू द हिंदूज. देयर इज नो डाउट. मसीर आलमगिरी में कह रखा है कि भाई काशी विश्वनाथ टेंपल जो कि तोडरमल ने बनाया था, उससे पहले मान सिंह ने, उससे पहले हिस्टोरिक था, वो औरंगजेब ने तोड़वाया था. ये फैक्ट है, औरंगजेब की बायोग्राफी में लिखा गया है, सबने एक्सेप्ट किया है. वो प्लेस ऑफ वर्शिप एक्ट जो है वो प्लेस ऑफ वर्शिप हिंदूज को जाना चाहिए. अब ये फाउंटेन है कि शिवलिंग. अब मैं आपको बताता हूं साइंस और टेक्निकल. नाविका, देयर इज अ थिंग कॉल्ड ट्यूरिन श्राउड. For 1,000 years, it was believed that that was the shroud that was wrapped, that Jesus Christ was wrapped in before his resurrection. Until carbon dating was done in 1988, it was found out that it is only 600 years old. That is how science and facts destroy emotions. लेकिन यहां पे अनफॉर्चुनेटली कार्बन डेटिंग नहीं कर सकते, और आप रेडियो डेटिंग करोगे पत्थर की तो मिलियंस ऑफ ईयर ओल्ड निकलेगा. तो प्रूफ क्या है कि ये शिवलिंग है? इसके लिए आर्कियोलॉजिकल प्रूफ चाहिए, टेक्सचुअल प्रूफ चाहिए. आप इमोशंस पे नहीं जा सकते. आप ये भले ही कह दें एज ए बिलीवर ऑफ फेथ कि हाँ ये बाबा मिल गए, लेकिन आई एम अफ्रेड कोर्ट विल नॉट. एंड लेट मी अगेन टेल यू, द अयोध्या जजमेंट इज नॉट बेस्ड ऑन फेथ एज मेनी मुस्लिम्स एंड ओवैसी आर सेइंग. इट इज बेस्ड ऑन कॉन्क्रीट एविडेंस बाय द ASI. प्रणाना मिला, हिंदू ओरिजिन ऑफ वर्शिप मिला, और जब अयोध्या जजमेंट आ गई उसके 6 महीने बाद जब खुदाई शुरू हुई, यू नो व्हाट वाज फाउंड? विष्णु, कृष्ण, राम, शिवलिंग, everything was unearthed. So all those fraud historians, D.N. Jha, Habib, सब के सब झूठ बोल रहे थे कि ये तो हिंदू प्लेस ऑफ ओरिजिन का है ही नहीं. So that's what I'm saying. The justice will be meted out only on the basis of science and facts. अगर आप इस ट्रैप में घुस जाएंगे कि ये शिवलिंग है कि नहीं है, तो इसमें आप हार गए हैं. You have to reclaim this. Hindus have to reclaim this because the writing is there. It is a fact. It was not a masjid, it was a temple. It was broken and a masjid was by just 30 seconds. जो ये मेरे मुस्लिम यहाँ पे भाई बैठे हुए हैं, मैं इनको एक बात बताना चाहता हूँ कि कोई ऐसा हिस्टोरिकल मस्जिद का एग्जाम्पल दीजिए जो कि तोड़कर उस पे मंदिर बनाया गया हो. एक भी दे सकते हैं. मैं आपको 44,000 दे सकता हूं. सीताराम गोयल ने कैटलॉग किया है कि मंदिर को डिस्ट्रॉय करके उस पे अदर रिलीजियस स्ट्रक्चर बनाया. आप एक हिस्टोरिकल मस्जिद बता दीजिए अगर आपके पास है कि किसी हिंदू किंग ने मस्जिद को तोड़ के, एक सेकेंड, किसी हिंदू किंग ने मस्जिद जो कि, एक मिनट प्लीज लिसन टू मी, बाबरी मस्जिद टेंपल को तोड़ के बनाई गई थी. आप एक ऐसा एग्जांपल दीजिए जो कि मस्जिद बनाई गई हो, किसी को नहीं तोड़ा हो. मस्जिद बनाई, उसको किसी हिंदू राजा ने तोड़ा और मंदिर बनाया. अगर एक एग्जांपल दे दें, मैं कल आपके साथ जाऊंगा सुप्रीम कोर्ट और आपके साथ लड़ाई लड़ूंगा टू गिव दैट मस्जिद बैक टू यू. एक एग्जांपल दीजिए, वन.